Hello, I'm Alistair Beddoe, MD of Meridian West. Today I'm being joined by Kimberly Bradshaw. She's CEO of Spotlight HR. She's going to shine a light for us, no pun intended, on some of the key issues around HR and people development in this time of crisis. She's had experience of working in the professional services sector previously, but also covers other sectors as well, and hopefully we'll be able to learn some things from what's happening elsewhere in the economy too. So great to see you, Kimberly. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for inviting me to do this. It's really good to chat to you.
Yeah, fantastic to see you too. So I guess to start off, we're hearing a lot, or we've heard a lot over the last couple of weeks and months about, the financial impact of this crisis, the operational impact on supply chains for businesses, but there's a people element at the heart of this crisis too, and that's an area that you focus on. So it'd be interesting just to hear your views to start with around how you think firms have been responding. What has been what's caught your eye in terms of successful response, kind of people-centered response to this kind of crazy, unprecedented crisis we're living through at the moment.
Yes, I think really it's a case of the good, the bad and the ugly. Obviously, many companies have had to close down completely and furlough everybody, which is one thing. But even those that have carried on, I think on the ugly side of things, a company I know, professional services, they really should have started working from home, but they didn't close. And that was because all their files are hard files. So they've kept going into the office. And then, of course, the virus has spread. I think in terms of those that have got it really right and would be in the good category are those that have used technology well. Either they have remote access to their systems and their files, or they're using it to have team meetings or one-to-ones and to check in with people. So I think technology is very key. Irrespective of whether people have been furloughed or whether they're working from home, I think the companies that have done it best are those that have communicated regularly. It's been a big theme I've been hearing with everybody I've been talking to. The better the communications plan, the better the employees have fared. Also, those that have been helping managers to lead their teams in a different way. Remote working isn't natural to everybody, and even down to the little things. I know of a company that they had everybody working from home. It was all going fine. And the MD discovered that one of their employees had lived in a bedsit and was trying to work with a laptop on their lap on the bed. So they ordered a small desk and got it sent round. So, it doesn't have to be the big things that's important. Another company I know, in order to try and create water cooler type moments and a bit of banter, have been doing a weekly nature photo contest with silly little prizes. So again, it doesn't have to be great big things, but definitely, regular communication. I think the third thing there really is also companies that in these scary times have been helping their employees with webinars, like dealing with change. You can't go wrong with good old tools like the Kubler-Ross change curve and Covey spheres of influence at the moment, but also any kind of learning modules. So I think they're the three key things that I think companies have done well. It does, I think, also, though, depend on size and whether it's a more modern style organisation or whether it's more traditionally based, because that seems to have an impact. And obviously the SME market don't have HR people. So I think it's been really hard for them.
It's interesting because it is, I guess, a moment where leadership really gets tested, and particularly for those organisations that don't have that HR expertise internally. So, you talked about a few things around, engaging with the workforce, and I guess one of the challenges for professional services in particularly, we're used to a lot of face-to-face time, face-to-face meetings, being present in the office, collaborating with colleagues. What are your thoughts around, how that level of productivity and engagement can be maintained in this new remote working way that we've all become very adjusted to very quickly?
I think, if everybody's physically well, that's obviously a key aspect, but really regular contact with both fun things and work things is important. Open and honest communications. I really can't reiterate enough how much I've heard that is key. People are scared. It's unusual times. We don't know what's going on, and good, open, transparent communications and explaining decisions is really important. Obviously, as I mentioned, having a suitable home working environment, but also the well-being tools, some you can buy in or create, webinars around well-being aspects, stress management, all those kinds of things. But even the basics, like encouraging people to eat well, get good sleep, structure their day, have a plan, try and do something new. I'm trying to learn French because my niece lives in Canada, and she's learns half her lessons in French every day. So trying to, do something fun, but also having a much better work-life balance, I think, is key.
Because I guess there is a tendency when everybody's at home, balancing family, personal life, work life, actually, blurring of those boundaries, which, was possibly something that was happening before the crisis, has become even more blurred now that, your home is your office, and there's very little opportunity to leave it at the moment.
Yes, I think it helps to have a special work area where, that's my workplace and I'm only going to work there and I'm not going to work anywhere else. Also having boundaries around stopping at a particular time so that, you get plenty of rest, and, try not to watch the news too much, because obviously that can be a bit scary. I just make sure I get the headlines, know what's going on, and then try and, do fun stuff.
And I guess, we're kind of reaching a point now where people have become, used to a kind of routine. But there will be a point when, lockdown starts to ease. And we've got a friend with us there.
Sorry, yes.
That's all right. That's all right.
Who is, she loves joining my meetings. Her brother Ishka might appear also, so please welcome her to the team.
Well, I'm very lucky to have her as a special guest. So,
yes.
But there will be a point, I guess, where, people, are in a position to maybe return to work in a phased way, or, lockdown restrictions do ease somewhat. So I guess my question would be, what role do you think HR can play in, the longer term response to this crisis, either in terms of easing people back to work or thinking about, broader changes that businesses need to make for the future?
I think in the short term, it's very much about support and reassurance. I hear of many employees who assume that because they've been furloughed, it means they're going to lose their jobs. And obviously the job retention scheme was designed to prevent exactly that. But when people are uncertain, their fear levels rise. So it's important to get some kind of support and reassurance. And I think, again, that comes back to using technology well, even just chatting or webinars, and the strong communication plan that I mentioned. I think in the longer term, exiting from lockdown, and of course we don't know how long that's going to take, but planning now is essential. The government's planning, everybody needs to be planning. There are organisations that are starting to go back, and I've seen companies split their workforce into work teams and, A, B, C, D, and they've been rotating the workforce, obviously within furlough guidelines, so that they can deliver the work, but in a way that plays, follows guidelines very well. And for some organisations, it's very easy to do. I mean, a very small example, I lost a fence in a gale after we started in lockdown. I'm shielding, so I had to have contact free, and I had it all mended. So, there are things that can be done, but I think what HR and L&D teams can be doing at the moment is really supporting business leaders to create an exit plan, something that works for their individual circumstances. It won't be the same for everybody, but obviously it needs to pay maximum regard to safety and social distancing, whilst at the same time being reassuring and supportive of their staff. Because, as we've heard with the schools opening, parents are saying, oh, we don't want to send our kids back in June. People are going to be scared about coming back to work. So I think there's a number of things that you can do, but as a priority, I would suggest involve your employees. What do they think will work best? We know from the McLeod report years ago that involving staff is a key engagement tool, and that hasn't changed. I think also then they need to think about what is most essential to take back to the workplace, and then from that create a phased time plan with a priority of order so that everybody comes back gradually. Also, that plan needs to take regard of the fact that some people are shielding. Certainly the guidelines are that that shielding will be at home until the middle of June. That might extend, we don't know. So how are you going to deal with those people? What can they do? Also, how can it be done safely? So in your work environment, will you need PPE, hand sanitizers? Do you need to get a deeper cleaning? Does your air conditioning circulate air, which then circulates germs? So some of the more basic safety things. We've heard the government talking about putting people back to back, but how realistic is that? For some it'll be fine, others it won't, but there will be things that can be done to move things around. And then key really is the mental and emotional support through this. So I think there's lots more things, but they'd be the key things for me.
And you mentioned people who may have been furloughed at the moment, and I guess for somebody in that position, how do you stay connected to your employer? Because you still have a job, and there will be a job for you to return to. But if this lockdown period away from work is extended, there's a risk, I suppose, of losing some of the skills that you may have had, or the familiarity with with the working environment. So how can you ensure that you stay as productive as possible, given what you can do as a furloughed employee?
I think doing what you can to help your mental health and well-being is absolutely key. Mental health is a big issue now, and I think it's particularly true for furloughed staff, because they've gone from working to not working. They're stuck at home. Okay, they might be able to go out and do their hours exercise or whatever, but I feel there are companies that are forgetting about their furloughed staff and aren't communicating with them in the same way that they are with people working from home. So spotting mental health issues is an important skill. There's some great tools available from people like Mind that give you the symptoms to look for. Obviously they range from emotional to physical, so a bit of training on spotting there. But furloughed staff could take part in wellbeing webinars. They are allowed to do learning and development activity, so I would put some plans in place to support everybody, and then the furloughed staff could also take part at the same time as the working from home staff, so you get that normal sense of being together again.
So there are ways of both feeling like you're still part of the team, but also if there are those learning and development opportunities, to take part in those and as you said yourself, to use this perhaps as an opportunity to learn new skills, so that when you go back to work, you come not just with the skills you had before, but with other ways of contributing that will help kind of move things forward as we come out of lockdown.
Yes, and there's a real dichotomy between people that, some people are furloughed and delighted to be furloughed. There are others that are jealous of the ones that are still working from home, and vice versa. So I would advise treating furloughed staff in much the same way as the working from home staff in terms of the regular communication and contact.
And you've had lots of experience in your career working in the professional services sector, leading HR consulting practices in kind of leading firms. How different do you think the sector is going to be emerging from this crisis? Do you get the sense, as I do, speaking from people, that actually the professional services sector is going to be it's going to emerge very different, and this crisis is going to be a catalyst for change that was quite a long time coming?
I think it will. We've had such a go type world, working environment. I really hope that it will make people think differently about their work-life balance. But the things for me that I think leaders of professional services firms can learn at the moment are really better, more regular and honest communications. I know I've banged on about that, but I think it's key. Involving their employees in what's happening in the future. More creative use of technology. I've mentioned already a few examples, but I know a firm who they have an employee and she can't use Teams or Zoom, not even WhatsApp. So, I think there's a role there for how can we encourage people to take part in communications. I think more focus on wellbeing activities and preventing mental health issues. Also, I think avoiding ambiguity. When you're about to communicate, think about all the possible negative responses that you could come across and make sure you nail the communication to overcome those. I think firms would also benefit from some risk assessments. What could we have done better? How could we have survived this better? I know a lot of firms do have risk assessments, and they're very thorough about that. But who was prepared for this? So we never know if something like this is going to happen. Obviously, let's hope that it doesn't. But if it did, what would you do differently? I think also how work is delivered could be different. There's all these big, tall office blocks rammed with thousands of people. Do we actually need that now? Could more people work from home? I think, sometimes there's a view that working from home is seen as skiving off. But, I know from my own perspective, if I'm working from home, I actually work longer hours because I start earlier and I finish later. Perhaps I won't going forward, but, can work be delivered in a different way? I think more of a show of care about your staff is important. Let them know how important they are to you, to the firm. That goes a long way to engagement and productivity as well. If people feel that they're special, then they act like it. And certainly, I think everybody needs to reflect on what could have been done better when this pandemic hit. And I really hope that people don't carry on in the old normal and that they use this opportunity for a new normal. And I think my big message in all of that is it's not rocket science, it's basic humanity, skills for people with a bit of reviewing and planning along with it.
Yeah, fantastic. I would definitely agree, and I think all the people that I've been speaking to would say would echo that view. I think that, you know, let's use this as an opportunity to, you know, rethink the way that we work. Do we need those, you know, those big office spaces? Do we need everybody in the office all the time? You know, people can be productive working from home. You know, there are times when you need collaboration and face-to-face collaboration, but technology is definitely helping to do or to replace some of that. And actually, let's embrace this, you know, and let's use it to kind of power through. Professional services have always been, you know, very adaptive as a sector. I think that's one of our strengths, entrepreneurialism, and being able to respond to change and see new opportunities. So, you know, this is possibly the biggest change that many of us may see in our working lives. So let's make sure that we make the most of what we can from it.
Yes, and I think also going back to the mental health, I think normalizing it, making it okay to say, I'm not okay. I think despite the work of many great charities, there's still not enough understanding. There's still a bit of a stigma. People don't want to admit to it. And I think leaders can lead from the front here. They can be open, say, I've had a really down time. It's normal in these circumstances. It's normal to have issues, and make it okay to talk about it.
Fantastic. Well, Kimberly, CEO of Spotlight HR, thank you very much for spending a bit of time with me, and you know, some really useful advice in there, I think, for everyone to take away. So thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you very much.